tell us your mentality, man, about playing offensive tackle. I mean, you have the potential, just to be absolutely elite.
Dan, go ahead and share your thoughts on the thesis.
Yeah, baby. That's what we do. We are the Buckeyes. What up, Buckeye Nation? What up, Buckeye Nation? Welcome to the Buckeye Boys, where we talk college football with real fans. I'm Devin. Got a good show planned for you guys. Very intrigued with today's show, man. We know Arthur Smith coming in the building, longtime NFL offensive coordinator, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do. Well, we got a little bit of details there about his game plan, some of the things he's going to implement that. So me and VB coach in particular, going to dive into that a little bit tonight. So for those of you Buckeye enthusiasts that are psycho about the football team like I am, you will be very intrigued in tonight's show and kind of give you a little bit of a glimpse of what we believe we're going to see in this upcoming season with the offensive attack. But before we get going with that, y'all know what to do, man. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Super chats are open. Good night for questions, man. All the super chats on both channels go to our Pay It Forward. On that note as well, I am streaming on two channels, Buckeye Scoop and Buckeye Boys. Take a quick second, go to whatever channel you're not on, give us a like and a subscription on that one if you're not already subscribed. Also, if you're listening on Spreaker or Apple Podcast, save us, give us a like, whatever you do on that platform you're on. And also the Scoop message board, great place to get a lot of information, man. Everybody's always posting on that. Good updates, perfect to be a part of that during the spring, because you never know who knows a little something, man. So there's all kind of nuggets going on over there. But without further ado, let me bring on my good Monday show buddy here, VB Coach. What up, VB Coach? How you doing?
Doing all right. You guys will notice my voice is going in and out right now. So we've got crazy weather here in Ohio. So I got hit with a snowstorm and allergies at the same time. So,
dang. Well, luckily you don't have to do like a YouTube show tonight or something where you're talking a bunch. Oh, wait, no, never mind. Hey, also quick reminder, guys, today, right? Thank you, Solners, for reminding me. Starts the trivia. We are giving away 2 tickets to a game this year. So we'll start off asking some trivia questions. I have 2 prepped for the night. Whoever shows up with the right answer first in the chat gets the point for the question. There's only 1 question tonight. If nobody gets the first one, you have, I think, 30 seconds. I'll have the timer going and all that. So it starts tonight. So you don't want to miss out, man. And we'll get an end date scheduled here. And we'll also pick which game I'm going to give those tickets away to. So it's a good time to subscribe, hit the alert bell. Make sure you come watch every time we're on, because you're going to have an opportunity to win 2 tickets to a Buckeye away game this year. All right. So, VB Coach, here we go. All of last year, right? I don't want to dive too much into that, but we have to a little bit. But I'm just going to speak from my perspective. It was aggravating to watch the play calling throughout the year with Brian Hartline, mainly the rushing attack. We watched, kind of their go-to plays change throughout the year. And you normally like to see an offense have an identity, right? Especially on the rushing side of the ball. Well, that's our hopes for this year. We're hoping for a change. Arthur Smith came in the building, and you can look at what he ran, in the NFL, what he likes to do. But coming to Ohio State College, you wonder, boy, is he going to run the same type of things? Does he have the players? Does he have the offensive line? What's he going to do? Well, we've got a couple nuggets, man. Nevada put a great nugget on the Buckeye Scoop message board over there, and he brought up some points from an insider that we're being told some things Arthur Smith is going to implement. One of the first things, VB Coach, is wide zone, getting the tight ends involved, giving opportunities for our running backs to cut back and stuff like that. But before you dive into that, kind of dive into last year's rushing attack and why it didn't go so well for us at times.
Well, one of the things is, and we have talked about this, when it's 3rd and 2, what were they going to run? And that is your identity. What is the core of your scheme? I don't know exactly what the core of their scheme was. I think I felt like they started out trying to run a lot of zone, which you can do without running the quarterback. You can do it because Arthur Smith does it. He doesn't run the quarterback, but he runs a zone scheme. What you cannot do is run a zone read scheme, which Ohio State did a lot of, but Julian was not reading that thing. He was not pulling that ball. If that backside end was crashing, he wasn't pulling it. So what you do is you're faking it, and you're hoping that makes the backside guys sit. But they didn't. There were too many games where we had what I call an overhang linebacker, which let that D end crash whenever he got a down block. And there were times where everything was blocked perfectly. And the offensive line would get a bad rap, but there were 6 dudes blocking, and they blocked the 6 dudes on defense, but numbers 7 and 8 made the tackle. You can only block so many. So that was where that identity became a real problem. And as we got to the end of the year, the run game just completely did a 180. They went from a zone scheme to a gap scheme. They were running power. That's where they're going to kick with that fullback, and they're going to pull the backside guard around. Everybody's blocking down, pull the guard around, kick with the fullback. They also ran a lot of counter tray, so they were pulling guard and tackle, blocking down on play side, pulling the backside guard and tackle. All that stuff works. It's just, what is your identity? Pick one. I don't care. You cannot run it all. I told you, you're skilled at everything at a master of nothing.
Yep.
So that was a lot of the problem. And, I did a lot of research on today's stuff. I saw a great comment by Ryan Day. I believe he was talking, Jim Rome. I think he was talking to Jim Rome. I saw this clip. And he said that in looking for a coordinator this year, one thing he emphasized was experience. Yeah. And I thought, that's not a knock on Hartline at all. But that was Hartline's problem. He didn't have experience as a play caller, as a scheme guy, and what was his strength going to be? It was going to be the passing game. So, going in, we kind of did him a disservice a little bit. I don't know who was in charge of the run game, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Before you dive into the Arthur Smith stuff, I just wanted to ask you, man, I feel like, dude, as a play caller, do you ever look at kind of like the identity of your offensive line to determine, if you're going to do inside zone, counter, wide zone? Do you ever take that into account? Like, what type of offensive line am I working with here? Or is the goal to have an offensive line that's obviously the goal is to have an offensive line that's capable of doing all of it, but you know how certain groups are better at doing certain things. Like maybe you have a offensive line that's a little more athletic, able to go side to side quicker, right? Less power, but more athletic. Or maybe you have an offensive line that can't move too fast, but boy, straight up, they're powerful. You know what I'm saying? Like, so does that come into play here? Or when you get to the Ohio State level, where you're like, hey, our O-line, right, they need to be powerful and athletic. And I think we have that now with this veteran offensive line we're working with. So,
yeah, and I think it's a little bit of both. Yeah. One, you're at Ohio State. All these guys are players. We've talked about here in the last few weeks how they could all play another spot on the O-line. Like they could be starting at tackle. They could also start at guard. We got guards that's now starting at tackle. We've got centers who started at guard. So these guys can all play. They're all athletic, and they're all big, and they're all strong. The coach come from Coach Mick's program. We know they're strong and athletic. While we didn't finish the way we had hoped this past season, clearly the offensive line wasn't, terrible or anything like that. They had a rough 2 games, but so did everybody else against those 2 teams. So I think that's it. But then the one thing that I really like about Coach Smith is he does have an identity. You know what you're going to get when you play against him. And from what we have seen, and I know a lot of people weren't all that thrilled with it, but we saw a lot of 2 and 3 tight end looks last year. And I think we're going to see more of that this year. And that matches with what Arthur Smith likes to do. And he likes to outflank you. He likes to motion those guys. He likes to move those guys. And again, I watched a lot of film today. I saw him put 4 guys left of the center, made everybody on the other team think that's where the ball's going. Nope, he ran it to the other side. There was only 2 dudes on the other side of the ball, and he ran it over there. So he is a smart guy. And that was another thing that I saw Day say about him was how intelligent he is, how smart he is. But that comes with experience, and that's something that I think down the road Heartline's going to have. But if you've never called a game, like if you've never been in the box and never called a game, you just don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And we know that Arthur Smith's coming in here and he's running wide zone. He's going to utilize the tight ends, which at the end of the show, guys, I'm going to run over some updates from the first kind of compound all the notes I got through all the conversations, have some bullet points about some of these players. Tight ends are involved in that, but obviously you have to have tight ends able to help with this. But explain the advantages of wide zone, man. Explain it to us. If we don't know what wide zone is, number one, tell us what wide zone is, what they're looking for, maybe some advantages, some disadvantages of it. Just act like you're talking to a kindergartner here. Coach, what is wide zone?
Okay. Well, to understand, zone blocking is something where everybody's going to step in unison, whether they're all stepping right or they're all stepping left.
Okay.
And then the term inside, wide, or outside, that just tells you where we're looking for the ball to hit. So inside zone, we're looking for that thing to hit in either the A or B gap. One thing we've seen, and I think everybody knows this, is that thing can cut back. So we may be blocking it on the O-line for that thing to hit in the right A gap. But the back side may, for whatever reason, got washed down, and he'll hit it in the left B gap. And that's where having a running back with vision comes into play. And that is one thing that I did notice. Arthur Smith seems to really be able to find guys and be able to coach them or get his coaches to coach them to understand that. I saw a stat where I think he's the only OC in NFL history that had 7 consecutive different 1,000-yard rushers. So 7 different running backs, 7 years in a row, got over 1,000 yards rushing. So, when he was at Tennessee, obviously he had Derrick Henry. And, as long as you get Derrick moving forward, he's probably going to get 1,000 yards by the end of the year. But that just shows he did it with guys that we probably can't even name. They still got 1,000 yards. He also took running backs who I would not consider to be a zone runner. Najee Harris for the Steelers?
Harris.
Yeah, he's a north-south guy. Like he's not your cutback, shifty kind of a person. He got 1,000 yards in that scheme. Yeah. And so what that also tells me is he will adapt a little bit to his personnel.
Good.
What he's trying to do, and what the ultimate thing that all offensive coordinators are trying to do, is get the defense to adapt to what he's trying to do. That's what he wants the defense to get out of their comfort zone and stuff. So, when we're talking about zone, somewhere along the line there, we want to double team. It's usually at the point of attack. So if we're running left inside zone, we want to double team the defensive tackle that's on that side. Whether it's a one technique, three technique, whatever. And on that double team, somebody's going to come off of it and pick up a linebacker. That is ultimately what zone is.
So essentially, it's up to the offensive lineman to figure out who is in their zone, who are they going to go block, right? Because I remember early in the year last year, I watched them run zone a couple times, and it did not look good. I was like, bro, this offensive line has no idea who they're supposed to be blocking. I mean, they were just people taking the same guy, missed blocks. We saw JJ take a smack because of a play similar to that. So it's just like, so you have to have that fundamental teaching of, and you have to have, I feel like having a veteran offensive line will help here, because they're going to be able to identify those guys that they, from the defensive scheme that they're able to block. So hit on that a little bit. But you brought up something. The next point, right, I wanted to bring up with Arthur Smith is, yeah, he wants the defense to be in heavy personnel a lot, right? Yes. So he's going to go, and I know Buckeye Nation, we're not going to like to hear this. I didn't like hearing this, but I'm choosing to just trust. He's going to go the efficiency route over the pace route, right? He's going to he instead of running the spread, Ryan Day, fast-paced offense we're used to see. He's going to lean more towards the efficiency, make the defense be in heavy personnel a lot. And there's one more thing I could throw in there, but that's the next point. So hit on some of that a little bit about, this veteran offensive line, from an offensive lineman standpoint, how hard is it to go identify the person you're supposed to be blocking in a wide zone?
Well, and that's, so you got inside zone, wide zone to me. And again, there's terminology. What does he consider to be wide zone? What do I consider to be wide zone? To me, wide zone is we got a tight end in there. So you're now taking, you got your tackles, you're spreading that defense out because you've added tight ends in there, especially if you've got a tight end on the left and the right. Now you're really spreading defense out and you're forcing them to walk safeties up. The reason that is super dangerous is Jeremiah Smith is on the outside. You walk safeties up into the box, that means the corner's one-on-one. So as a defense, you got to make a choice before the game even starts. What are we going to do if he puts two tight ends in the box and has a symmetrical formation, which means I got a tight end and receiver on the right and a tight end receiver on the left? What the heck am I going to do?
Yeah.
And if I want, and it's not like the other receiver is going to be a chump or anything, so, if I say I crank my safety over to Jeremiah Smith's side, okay, well, that just means the other receiver is definitely one-on-one with no safety help,
Yeah.
So, again, pick your poison. Wide zone usually means the aiming point is off of the tight ends either, and it's a philosophical thing. Is your aiming point off the inside butt cheek or the outside butt cheek? And
yeah.
From week to week, and it'll depend on where the defensive end's at. When I watched a lot of film when he was at Atlanta, I watched some film of that today. And NFL defensive ends, man, they get out there wide. They're not letting you get outside of them. And that's fine. The tight end, that makes it easy on the tight end. He now knows, hey, I don't have to hook this guy. I don't have to, fight outside because I can't get outside. So I just need to step and drive block this guy. The running back sees it before the ball snapped. He knows the ball is now not going outside cheek. It's going inside cheek.
Yeah. I'm getting excited to listen to you talking because, number one, right, you bring up kind of the next point in this conversation. And if we're able to get wide zone down, the offensive line, is good at it, the defense is going to be put in some scenarios like you just talked about, especially when Arthur Smith implements his third point here, which is play action. You know what I'm saying? Play action with Jeremiah Smith, because Arthur Smith is very excited about Jeremiah Smith, very well aware that he needs to be involved in this game planning. And the other thing I like about this wide zone stuff is the ability, right, to give these running backs more options. I like taking it to the outside like that, because they can go all the way around the end. They can decide to cut up right by the tackle, or they can cut it all the way back. And when you look at our running backs, Bo Jackson, we watched him cut back against Michigan and gain an extra 30 yards on a play. You got Legend Bay, right? What's the one thing everybody's excited about Legend Bay? His quickness, his athleticism. Pretty good in that kind of scheme with the ability to cut back, find the hole, those type of things. Turbo Rogers. And then you got some bruisers, Isaiah West and Jacoby Jackson on the roster. So I think, right, if we get this thing down, we have the veteran offensive line. We have running backs able to do this. And then you also implement this third point here, which is play action, which is going to force the defense, like you talked about, right? If we're running it up their throat, like I hope we are, then one of our wide receivers, who Chris Henry Jr., Jeremiah Smith, Devin McQuinn, Brandon Ennis, right, Kyle Parker, those are slot guys. But either way, no safety help on the other side. Oh, with, by the way, Julian Sand throwing them the ball. So it could get awful deadly.
Yeah, it's, take what they give you. And that's what I think Arthur Smith does. And that's what a good defense is going to do. They're not going to give up the deep ball. They're going to stay conservative and make you march the ball down the field. So people are always saying, "Oh, he runs this conservative offense." Well, he's in the NFL. There aren't too many wide open, chuck
Yeah.
it, air raid type stuff going on in the NFL. The good offenses do that stuff. So, how's he adapted to the college game? That's going to be super interesting. Again, I say he's the smartest guy in the room. He really is. He's an extremely intelligent guy. He's going to figure out how to do that. Matt Patricia had an NFL defense. He had to dumb it down a little bit, I'm sure, in order for the college guys to do it. Because when you're in the NFL, it's your job. You're going to spend 8, 9, 10 hours at the facility watching film, training, going over stuff and everything like that. College guys aren't allowed to do that. So you got to figure out how to make that work. When you talk about the play action, one thing that I really noticed on his NFL film stuff was when they ran play action, the thing, and I think everybody will remember this. You can remember Peyton Manning with the Colts. They used to run a lot of wide zone with Edgerrin James, and you would see him turn and go to hand that ball off, and he's sprinting out to get it, and all of a sudden he pulled in and he boot out the other way. That and he would hit. Gosh, was it Dallas Clark is who he used to hit all the time. Dallas Clark caught a ton of passes at tight end. Marvin Harrison, he would kill teams with that. The thing about it is his play action pass looks exactly like the run. You could not tell the difference for at least 2 to 3 seconds of whether or not it was run or pass. That puts the safety in a bind. Like one thing that is extremely difficult against his scheme is who are you going to key? And that's a football term where, what is that safety going to look at that's going to tell him if this is a pass or a run?
Yeah.
Well, if he sees a tight end blocking and that is his key, he's coming downhill thinking this is a run. Yep. And all of a sudden, Jeremiah Smith is on a post route where that safety was supposed to be. And they're in the corner that's going to stay with him on a post route, to the middle of the field. So, it's stuff like that. Whether, and Ohio State they started to figure it out this past year. And I thought Hartline did a good job of constraint plays where that tight end on the backside would sit for 2 seconds and then release as Sayin came out. And that backside end, then, he'd rush as Sayin, but there was nobody on that tight end. I wish we did that more. I wish they started almost every game out with that play. Make that backside end sit. And I used to say that on the boards all the time. So those are things that, so there's the bootlegs, which are the constraint plays, making those guys sit. And then there's just where he's going to fake the run and he's going to roll maybe a half roll and set up and throw that ball. And what that does is, and the reason it's so valuable is, we saw what happens when you take a great defensive line like Miami had, and you tell them, hey, we're going to pass block. And they get a tee off on your O-lineman, that's tough.
Yeah.
But if you show them run and then go to a pass, well, that defensive lineman is coached to play run first, and he's going to, instead of flying the field, he's going to go down the line because you're showing him wide zone.
Yeah.
And he's taught, do not, one thing you tell defensive linemen against zone teams is, I can't have one D lineman 4 yards upfield and the other one still back on the line of scrimmage. That's where your cutback lanes are.
Yeah. Dude, that's one of the things that excites me so much with Arthur Smith is you're talking about the key play, like the keys that a defender's going to look at, because in the NFL, you got like a lot closer, skilled players, they're not uneven, Ohio State's star power that they have can sometimes just win the game alone. In the NFL, you got a lot of smart, really athletic players. So you have to start implementing things to try to deceive and trick these guys and slow these guys down. And when you're talking about how you run zone like this, when you have all these tight ends on either side of the quarterback, 1 second can be the difference. I mean, half a second can be the difference when that safety is making a decision. If he waits half a second too long, especially this year, because if you guys remember, one of the things Ryan Day's always brought up, one of the things we tell you here at Buckeye Scoop, the insiders have known in the portal and in recruiting, we wanted to get what on offense? Faster. We went out, we got Devin McQuinn, we got Kyle Parker, we got Legend Bay in the building, right? So those little moments where a safety or a linebacker is reading what is going on in this moment, if they take just a little bit too long and we have more speed on our roster now, right, that equates to more yards down the field. So I get excited when I see that as well, man. So overall, right, Arthur Smith's knowledge of the NFL and what he did, bringing it down here to the college level, as long as he's able to, understand how much these college players can take. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was worried about with Matt Patricia. And that's why I like it too, because Matt Patricia just did it, right? Beautifully.
Yes.
He didn't overwhelm the guys, right? He gave them just enough. And, my guess is both of those guys, Arthur and Matt, in the NFL. So Arthur can kind of feed off that a little bit. Hey, Matt, right? How much can we, so feed off each other a little bit. I'm excited about that, man. I have two more points to make, but anything else on the wide zone stuff, the tight ends, the efficiency that Arthur Smith's going to be using?
Well, I know it doesn't sound appealing. The day and age of that tight end catching 80 passes is probably over, at least for a while. The guys doing that are the 6'2", 235-pound tight ends anyways, and that just doesn't translate in the NFL very well. But you can now sell a tight end on, hey, we run a tight end friendly NFL scheme. And it used to be just one tight end played. Well, now we're playing two or three. So if you're any good, you're getting on the field. So this is something I think is going to be appealing in recruiting. I think it's why we see tight ends transferring to Ohio State through the portal, who were doing good at the schools they were at. And now this is going to be even more appealing. So that's one thing. Another thing that wide zone does to a defense is you could have a couple 330-pound, 350-pound defensive tackles who can plug a gap.
Yeah.
I'm now making, and you got to understand, I coach zone. Like inside zone was my play. We also ran outside zone. If a team had those guys, and at this high school level, but it's still the same in college, if a team had those guys, we would run outside zone 3 plays in a row. We made those fat boys run. I was like, run it to the wide side right. And that guy had to run 20, 30 yards. And then the next play, he had to go 20, 30 yards to the left. Then we made him go 20, 30 yards back to the right. And maybe we punted, but that kid was winded now. So when I ran inside zone, it was a lot easier to do that stuff. And it's the same thing with wide zone. You're looking for those. So not only do we want to hit it over there, now all of a sudden this defensive tackle on the backside, he's not moving like he used to. And there's your cutback lane. And he's always disciplined.
In the dreaded Michigan game 2 years ago, I was yelling at the TV to run that, man. Where those, because that was the start, the Kenneth Grant, of the defense. I think we watched either USC or I think it was USC, right? Implement wide zone, had those defensive tackles wore out, especially in the second half of the game, and they were able to rush, I think we're over 200 yards on a very stout defense. So, and then we come out and try to run right at them. So, I love that you brought that up. That does. Yes. Yeah, it does that. So the final thing with Arthur Smith here is we'll talk about him and the offensive line, what he's able to do with running backs, the 1,000-yard running backs that he's had. But something else, right, that I think flies under the radar just a little bit is what Arthur Smith can do with the quarterback, right? Now, Arthur Smith has brought what the Buckeye fans have been yelling for and asking Ryan Day to do since he has been here, and that's run the quarterback, right? So it's here. They're talking about it. They're saying it's going to be done, so we can all cheer right now in this moment because as of now, Arthur Smith, right, has had that conversation with Julian saying, hey, we need you to use your legs, right? You're going to have to use your legs in these moments. And he's also going to put more on the quarterback. I don't know how many times last year, which game was it in? I think it was the Michigan game, man, where we saw J.J. Smith one-on-one in coverage, no safety over the top. And it's just like, Julian, just check out of that play and lob it up to J.J. in the end zone, right? He did not have that ability to do that last year. Well, this year being told that's going to change. Julian saying is going to have a lot more control at the line of scrimmage, which I like because the first thing we heard about Julian is this, what he had between his ears, man, his processing ability. And we still hear that to this day. And you see from his, recent press conference how mature he has gotten. and the leadership role he's taken on, right? And let me remind you that Arthur Smith made Matt Tannehill look like the best, quarterback in the NFL. I think he had the highest passing rating out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL at that time. So Arthur Smith has that ability to help our offensive line out, the running backs, but also quarterbacks, man. He's shown in the past in the NFL that, right, his systems are pretty friendly to quarterbacks. Like I said, Matt Tannehill. And when you have Julian saying his ability to pass and he can utilize his legs, go watch the Washington game, the Wisconsin game. When he did it, he was good. The critical third down he converted in the Michigan game with his legs, right? So if they're telling him that, he knows that. Julian has said that himself this year already. So Arthur Smith has brought that. I like that, man. It's kind of like, Ryan Day brought in Matt Patricia to be the boss of the defense, right? So Ryan Day doesn't have to mess with it. Arthur Smith coming in, hopefully being the boss of the offense, kind of means you got another adult in the room that might be able to, tell Ryan Day, hey, no, man, we got to unleash the quarterback's legs. You can't keep protecting them the way that you have been. So I'm excited about that, right? We're hearing the right things, man. So talk about that and what Julian Sands going to have the opportunity to do this year under Arthur Smith.
Yeah, I think what Day is saying as far as running the quarterback, when someone tells me they're running the quarterback, that means there's designed run plays. I don't think that's what we want to see. Yeah.
No.
What I think we're going to see is we're now telling our quarterback, hey, if it's 3rd and 5 and you can run for 6, take it.
Yep.
I don't know if he was necessarily told that in the past. And we've seen times where I thought, man, he could have run for the first down, but instead they held on. And, and that's good and bad. What that shows that they have patience and they're letting routes develop. The problem becomes then you play against a Miami or an Indiana and they're getting a great pass rush. Well, you don't have time for those routes to develop. So, I only want to see him do that once a game. But if he does it once a game, if he runs for a first down once a game, that's crushing to a defense. You've done everything right. The receivers are covered. You're getting a pass rush, which forces him out of the pocket. That's what you're supposed to do as a defense, and he gets a first down out of it. Man, that's hard to deal with if you're the defense.
Yeah.
And one thing I and this is me personally, I would tell Julian, every first down we get, the odds of us scoring a touchdown go way up. You put together 4, 5, or 6 first downs, you're going to score a touchdown. So, if he knows that, like, he doesn't have to throw a 60-yard bomb all the time. That's not what we need. We need to move the chains. When the chains move, and then here's one of the things that I think is the best part of hiring Arthur Smith. This offense, while not flashy, it may not generate 65 points in a game or anything like that, blends extremely well with our defense. Jim Tressel used to preach all 3 parts of the game, offense, defense, and special teams, must blend together and work in unison philosophically. We kind of got away from that somewhat. I think that made it hard on some of our defenses in the past, where the offense was go, 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 go. And we talk about hurry up and everything like that. Well, that's great until you go 3 plays, run 30 seconds off the clock, and punt. Now all of a sudden the defense is back on the field.
Yep.
But you get a 14 or 21 point lead on a team with this defense that Matt Patricia has put together. Now you've got a problem if you're the opposition, because you can't afford to not score, but you don't want to turn the ball over. And if Ohio State gets it back, maybe they don't score, but they're going to go on a 6, 7, 8 play drive and then punt the ball. And that's not what you want either. So I really like how his style will match well with our defensive philosophy. Now, there's a new special teams coordinator. I don't know what his philosophy is, and there hasn't been much talked about it. So that is something to definitely look at. But, yeah, I mean, if I'm going against Ohio State and I'm down 28-7 halfway through the third quarter and they got the ball, and I'm like, Arthur Smith is going to run the crap out of this. And the next thing we know, it's the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And, the object is to win. The object is not necessarily to look the prettiest. The object is to win. And I don't care how it would have happened if we'd have won those games at the end of the season this year. Everybody would be talking
Yeah.
differently. So,
Yeah.
um,
The the only thing that obviously, man, a lot of people, a lot of fans probably are not going to accept that very well just because of what we saw last year. It seemed like Ryan Day definitely slowed the game way down, and it worked with our defense because of how good our defense was. But what happens in a position when you're down? You know what I mean? And you're
yeah.
used to running that type of offense, but you got to go score 2 quick touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But all year long, you've been running that efficient thing. That's the only thing that makes me nervous there is, hey,
Mhm.
do we have the ability to open it up? And at that point in time, the only ability that you think you might have is the practice reps that you've had. There's no game reps in that. So I
Right.
guess in every philosophy that you have, there's always a downside to it. So you just got to pick one. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you pick, there's always going to be another side to it. Well, what if? Well, there's what ifs all over the place. But the thing I like about Arthur Smith coming in over everything else is I know for a fact he's going to change the snap count. He's going to tell these guys to change the snap count up, okay,
Yes.
just a little bit. And you also, when I said running the quarterback, I 100% meant exactly what you said. We're
Mhm.
not doing, called runs for Julian saying that's not what we're looking for here. But in the beginning of the show, you brought up you watched the backside defensive end crash down. I don't know how many times because he straight up knew Julian Sand was not going to run. You know what I'm saying? Or pull the ball or make those type of changes. So there just needs to be that threat there, just like you said. You do it once a game, then the defense is going to remember that, and they're going to have to respect that. And you're not going to see this crashing down. I can't tell you how many times last year because of number one, Julian not running, and number two, the snap count in the red zone. Dude, I just watched defenses just absolutely crash down every single time. And it took CJ Donaldson 3 plays to go 1 yard and score a touchdown. It's just like, man, one time,
Yeah.
Julian, don't hand that thing off and take off to the outside. Or dude, change the snap count up, and they're not going to. Indiana and Miami teed off on our snap count, teed off. And I have a sneaking suspicion when Arthur Smith watches that film, he's probably going to be asking, yo, what were we doing here? You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like in the Indiana Miami game, you brought this up actually. One time, Indiana accidentally went on the wrong snap and Miami got an offsides. I think
Yes.
it was an accident. Yeah.
Yes.
And they got an offsides call. So it's like, bro,
It, it-
over.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's funny in the game. Like there's so much going on, especially you're a Julian saying you're basically a redshirt freshman quarterback starting. You're at the end of the
Yeah.
season. We're out here playing against the best teams in all of college football. And I'm trying to read the safety. I'm trying to avoid this first round draft pick defensive end over here. Do I audible? All kinds of stuff. So guess what? He doesn't remember to change the snap count. Now,
Yeah.
I expect some dudes on the offensive line to say, "Hey, change the snap count." Like, that's they got a lot going on too, but their experience. So yeah, that definitely should have happened. I'm sure that it's been brought up before. That's
Yeah. Yeah. All right, man. Well, there is the Arthur Smith breakdown. We'll have more nuggets coming y'all's way, man, as we hear it. Arthur Smith's obviously going to be in there doing work, man. I mean, dude, the second he got there, conversations were being had. He was ripping and ready to go. And, I've seen some video of him in these spring practices. Dude, he's laser focused, man. He's watching, right? He's
Mhm.
absorbing things right now. I think right now he's in absorption mode. Probably after the spring, once he's absorbed it in, seen what players can do, kind of got the feel of the team, you expect those moments where, okay, he comes out and he starts picking things up, talking a little more, being more, assertive with some of his things. So I think that's just how it goes. But as we know, the first week of spring practices is done. We've done several shows on some updates, man. I've had several conversations with sources throughout the Woody and all different varieties. So I kind of just wanted to sum up a little bit here of some players that kind of a surprise. And obviously, when you have these transfer portal players come in, you want to know, hey, man, was it worth it? Bo Atkinson last year, right? During the beginning of spring, the first thing that came out about him was, boy, this is a wake-up call for Bo Atkinson. He looks a little bit lost out there. So you can gain some information based off of this first week of practice and how comfortable these transfers feel coming to Ohio State. Because, going from North Carolina to Ohio State, that's a smack in the face, man. You can almost compare that to going from high school to college. You know what I'm saying? But it's a big difference, man. So you do get to see that from some of these transfers. I'm going to start off with the defensive side of the ball. Not a transfer here, but Leroy Roker. We watched him come in the Miami game. He was the third safety subbed in. And right now, him and Terry Moore looking well. He had an ACL injury, right? He is doing all the drills, doesn't seem to be held back. So injury is healed. But Leroy Roker stepping up and pushing Terry Moore for that other safety starting role is something that, man, I didn't quite anticipate. I know it's only week 1 of spring, but Leroy Roker stepping up and Terry Moore seeming comfortable and healthy. Pretty big updates. On to the linebackers, Christian Allegro, linebacker from Wisconsin. He showed up and showed out in some red zone drills this week, right? One of his biggest things people were talking about when we got him was he can't cover, he can't cover, he can't cover. Well, he had 2 tip balls in the first red zone drill that they did. So he seemed to have flashes there. And TJ Alford, man. TJ Alford taking the opportunity of Riley Pettyjohn not being able to practice fully, full contact, as much as that is right now anyway, in spring. TJ Alford is taking advantage of that, and he's looking sharp out there, man. So kind of another guy stepping up. Dominic Kelly in the corner room, had him on the show. You got to see how smart he was, but he's going to push some people for playing time this year, right? You got, Jermaine and Devin Sanchez locked on the outside, but Dominic Kelly is athletic, long and lengthy, and he's been turning some heads as well. Zion and Epi Grady, 2 guys that physically completely changed their bodies. Zion Grady's 265 pounds. Epi is 260 pounds. Larry Johnson did a phenomenal job recruiting both of those guys. Those guys are going to contribute this year. Kind of a battle there, man, to see who's going to get that position. But I like what I'm hearing. And then, of course, James Smith. Not going to say, you guys already know how I feel there. But the last one I got here, Earl Little Jr., very impressive the first week of spring. Another transfer from Florida State that you kind of wonder, how's he going to fit in here, man? Is he going to feel comfortable with the changes? We're getting A++ from Earl Smith as of right now, or Earl Little Jr. from Florida State, man. So good things coming, man. Those are just my little notes. I don't think I hit a bunch on in my other updates, but these were the notes that I found like written off to the side that I didn't get a chance to talk about. So anything on the defense, any of those players, VB coach, to you that you find intriguing or interesting, or what you got on that?
One thing that I've really noticed that Ohio State's doing a fantastic job at is if you got a Caleb Downs, you know what you have there. You're not worried about it or whatever.
Yep.
With guys who were returning before the portal guys got involved, the guys that were returning at safety, there's potential there. We know that those guys were all studs in high school and everything like that, but we needed them to take the next step. So how do you make that happen? Well, you bring in a safety from Florida State and Duke, and you put him in the room, and guess what?
Yeah.
Some of those dudes are like, oh, and that's rough. That's NFL type stuff. That's not how it used to be in college ball. If you were a safety, your freshman year, you looked around the room. Your senior year, the guys that were with you your freshman year, the ones that are there, it's a totally different system now. Well, now all of a sudden, we're seeing a bunch of safeties making plays who didn't do that last year. Along with the guys that are in the portal coming in, they're making plays. So, yeah, that's you want to see somebody get better real fast, bring in a dude from the portal. You want to see our D tackles get better, bring in a 350-pound D tackle from, in there and see what happens.
Yeah. No, I love that point, man. That competition breeds excellence, man.
Yes.
And that's what it is. It's kind of, you're right. If they don't bring those, portal safeties in, then kind of the Fahim Delanes and Leroy Rokers just kind of feel like, man, that's my spot. You know what I mean? I can
Yeah.
just kind of, zombie, not that they would. Okay.
Yes.
I'm just using these guys as an example, but like you said, when you bring in competition that has done it at a very high level, sometimes you get to see the character of some of these guys. And if they're built for Ohio State, some of them just straight up leave. Some of them
Yeah.
don't even stick around. They just leave.
I,
Don't
I
want none
had,
of that smoke, man.
yeah, I had an awesome story told me this week about another university. Their linebacker room. They have all these dudes there, and they had lost some seniors. They were looking to replace 2 of the 3 spots and everything, and so they were just, it was naturally, oh well, this guy, he was second string this year, so he'll be first string this year. Well, then somebody came in the portal after spring ball was over with, I think, and those guys, that kind of threw them for the loop. They were not a program, at Ohio State, you're kind of used to it. At this school, that was not something that they were used to. Not only that, he was making a lot more money than everybody else.
Yeah.
And, everybody's like, what the heck? And well, then the reason it got super interesting was they got into the season and he could not play as well as the other guys they had. So he winds up starting, I think, at the beginning of the season. By the end of the year, he's barely playing at all. Ooh. And so when the season ended, one thing is in college that you have to do now is you got to re-recruit the guys that are on your team. And so not only are, you deciding, hey, we think it's best for you to leave, you're also trying to talk some dudes into staying. I know Ohio State had a few guys who they wanted to stay this year, but they left. So you're trying to re-recruit guys that you've already signed. Well, the head coach met with a couple of the captains, and one of the first things they said is you got to cut that kid loose and get him out of the linebacker room. Yeah. And they were like, what do you mean? And they said, well, he's making more than anybody else in the room, but he's about the 5th best player. It's really causing problems. And I just thought, man, that is not something as a college coach, you're like, what experience do you have that relates to that?
Yep.
And it wasn't that they were giving, that kid had lost his playing time, but he was making $150,000 more than anybody else in the room.
That's wild.
Yeah. And they were like, we can't keep this up. So yeah, that's tough. So he was told, I guess, here at the end of the season, he needed to look for some new place to play.
Dude, that's the side of this new, new college football era that a lot of fans don't think about. Yes. They want Ohio State to go out and pay whatever necessary for some of these players, but how does that affect the rest of your roster? There's times I don't even get that far in my thinking. I do now because I do this show and I'm into it, and I know that, hey man, you go out and pay this offensive tackle that you're saying we should pay $2 million a year. Well, are you paying Austin Saraville $2 million a year? Right. No, you're not. How do you think that's going to go? So yeah, definitely a side there. So on defense, man, the corner room is very young. People are asking about Jay Timmons, dude. He's looking like a boss, you know what I mean? But so is Jordan Thomas. Jordan Thomas physically looks like he should be on the field now. So a very young group, but surprisingly, as of right now, looks deeper than what I might have anticipated. On the defensive line. Defensive end room looks like it's going to be deeper than what I anticipated as well. We'll see. There's some young talent there. Kari Wilder, Zion, and Epi, with Bo Atkinson coming back. And, of course, Kenyatta Jackson and Quay Rasal as well, who's not injured now, fully healthy. So you're going to have some players to work with on the defensive end. Defensive tackle position, some of these returners are intriguing as well because Will Smith Jr. played at 290 pounds last year. He's over 300 pounds now. Edric Houston played at 289 pounds last year. He's over 300 pounds now. So some of these other guys, especially Will Smith Jr., I'm hearing very good things about. Combine that with John Walker and James Smith, who you brought in from Alabama, right? There's 4 guys right there. I'm curious to see if Jason Moore or Damari Simeon, some of these freshmen, step up. But so defensive end, I think we're deep. Corner, I think we're deep. And then the linebacker position, Christian Allegro is giving me some hope there. with also Peyton Pierce, obviously returning starter from last year, but with Riley Pettyjohn kind of not being talked about right now because he's not in all the things. Still some questions there. Still some questions on how that room's going to turn out, but seemingly talented as any of the other rooms that we have. Sincere Johnson in that room as well. So,
And didn't add anybody from the portal to that room.
To the linebacker room? Yeah, Christian Alliegro from Wisconsin.
Nobody in the – is he an outside backer?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
He played up on the line a lot too.
No, I don't. Yeah, he's not. Yeah. No. Yeah.
So, I don't see him and Riley Pettyjohn doing the same thing. I think they're two different type of players. So yeah, I'm looking at like Pettyjohn type thing. But yeah, they did add him.
No, I think that was one of those situations you just brought up because in my mind, I was thinking, I don't think we need to add a linebacker here. But I think one of the main reasons they did is because, Arvell and Sonny, Ryan Day looks at them as third-year guys. Yes. Sonny enrolled early, Arvell. So you need one of those veteran guys in the room to create that dynamic you just talked about, to push some of these younger guys, to give them so they don't feel like the role was just theirs. So all in all, defense, man, a lot of players to replace, just like in 2025. We had to replace a lot of players, but right now, it seems like we hit on some of these portal targets and some of these young guys, definitely in the workouts, dude, they got ready physically to play ball. We'll see how it plays out. The offensive side of the ball, tight ends are obviously going to be very important, right? And when we go in, we get Hunter Welsing from Northwestern and Mason Williams from Ohio U, you're like, man, how are these guys going to handle this change of pace? Northwestern, Ohio University, how are they going to handle this? As of right now, man, they're getting A+ grades. Add Nate Roberts in that, man. People are getting excited about our tight end room. Mason Williams and Hunter Welsing seemingly handling this transition very well. And, of course, the running back room with all the people are talking about right now. Everybody's talking about Legend Bay. Turbo Rogers is another one to talk about, injured. But while everybody's talking about Legend Bay, Devin is going to be talking about Jacoby Jackson. That's who Devin's talking about right now, because I keep hearing every time I have a conversation with somebody about Jacoby Jackson, it gets better and better and better. And, right, I spoke with the coach here in Florida who told me keep an eye on him, right? I think he's getting a little bit underrated right now, an underrated Ohio State pickup. I've been very open that I felt that way about C.J. Donaldson. I was wrong about that, but I'm holding my ground with Jacoby Jackson. Legend Bay, I'm all about the hype, coach, but I'm going to pause here on this because, for me, I don't want this to sound like I'm dissing, Legend Bay or saying the people that are hyping him up are wrong. No, you're not wrong, and I'm on that same train. But just understand that there's more to being a running back than being very quick and very fast. You know what I'm saying? You got to learn the playbook. You got to know how to block. But Legend Bay is also doing wide receiver drills, kind of the gadget player type of thing. So, yes, I think he can contribute to this team this year. How much? We'll see. We'll see how much he can handle there. What's your thoughts on that, man, what I just said about Legend?
I don't know if you saw on the scoop, but I posted some videos of him. On the video, what he's doing in the drills is not a big deal. It's the way he's being coached that is a big deal. There is an emphasis on making sure he carries the ball correctly. Coach Lachlan, and now, the cameras were right there on Lachlan's drill. They were probably 15 yards away. Lachlan knew what he was doing. And I think because of that, I think they think he's going to play. He's going to get playing time and everything, but they don't want to hand it to him. They're not making it easy on him. They're not treating him special or different or anything like that. So he went through a drill, and I posted the one video, and he goes through it, and he's got the ball tight under his chin and stuff, and he takes his rep, and Lachlan's like, good, and everybody goes through. Then the next time he comes through, he's swinging the thing around just like I would expect a quarterback / wide receiver to do.
Yeah.
And it's about 45 seconds into this clip that Lachlan just loses it. And he said, I think if we were trying to figure out exactly what he was saying, because he said, "Now I know you're lying. I know you're lying if you tell me that that's the right way to do it. And,
Yeah.
and you can't hear him, but he said, no, that's not the way to do it. And he said, then do it right, God damn it. He just started yelling at him and stuff. And I was like, oh, that poor. And he made him go back and redo the drill and hold the ball correctly. And I want to say that's the third time I've seen him chewed out for not holding the ball correctly.
Yeah. You know what Coach Locke is doing to this poor young man? Coach Locke tells random players, this is what I was told anyway, and there's video evidence of it. He tells random players throughout practice, hey, if you pass by Legend, you see him in a drill, try to knock the ball out of his hands. If you watch in one of the videos, there is some random dude walking by Legend Bay who just smacks the ball out of his hand.
Yeah.
And you hear Legend go, golly, or something like that.
Yeah.
So they're very serious on it. Yeah, when you see how hard he is being coached, right?
Yeah.
You see the number on his back. You know the recruiting story. You know Ohio State has big plans for him, for sure. But I hear people worrying about the running back room, and I understand because of lack of experience. But dude, I'm excited with the young talent we have. I mean, Turbo Rogers doesn't even get talked about, man. He's like the last on the list that's being talked about. Everybody knows Bo Jackson and Isaiah West and Jacoby Jackson and Legend Bay. And, the number 4 running back in the 2025 recruiting class doesn't hardly get talked about. And I'm just like, bro, dude, we'll see what these guys can do. But I think we have a talented running back room. But moving on, probably one of the most talented groups on the team, which should be no surprise here at Ohio State. Should be a surprise because Brian Hartline's not here. But the wide receiver room, man, as of right now, Kyle Parker and Devin McQuinn, the transfers, those were 2 A-plus transfers. Devin McQuinn is like rocking this thing out like he's been at Ohio State for quite some time. Seems seemingly transitioning very well. Kyle Parker, same thing, man. And then you look at this young talent. Everybody's bringing up Chris Henry Jr. and Jaquaden Guilford. Why? 5-star talent. Deservingly so. You can see the talent. They stand out above everybody else. But Brock Boyd. Man. The 3-star wide receiver out of Texas is the one that's looking like the veteran right now. He just, first week of spring out there, killing it, man. Killing it in these drills. So wide receiver room, obviously, Ryan Day, very happy about it with his comments he made about it. Couple other players here. Sam Greer, I'm not talking he's going to make an impact this year, but people are pretty excited what they're seeing from Sam Greer, the 6'7", 335-pound freshman, 5-star. Should have been a 5-star. It's pretty ridiculous. Had him ranked as a 33rd player, but anyway, they're pretty excited seeing him walk around inside what he did, and I am too.
Playing basketball?
Huh?
Have you seen film of that kid playing basketball?
I have. Because – dude, I'll tell you this. When I was following recruiting, when we were trying to recruit Adam Guthrie, I was talking to Adam Guthrie a lot, and he played basketball too.
Yes.
But so I watched Adam Guthrie's basketball film, and I watched Sam Greer's basketball film. They're different. Go watch them. Go watch them. You will see the difference in those two guys. Adam Guthrie, I think, is going to be a very good football player, but Sam Greer is different. Sam Greer is different, man. He just is. You shouldn't be able to move like that. 6'7", 335 pounds. But then the last player I want to bring up, man, Julian Sand. Julian Sand, physically gotten a little bit bigger. You see in his upper body, nothing wild, nothing crazy, but the maturity level and the leadership level that he has stepped up on this team is needed very badly. Like we lost Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs. I mean, we lost some leaders of this team. And Julian Sand, believe it or not, has taken a step up, right? For those haters that want Tavian St. Clair or a different quarterback on the team, I'm telling you right now, Julian Sand is looking sharp as ever, calm, cool, and collected as ever. And he is in for a big season, man. Anything to say about those offensive updates?
No, the thing about Julian, I think you nail it there, is what we're looking from him now is leadership.
Yep.
And that's his next step. The reports are he's probably put on about 10 pounds since last year. And that's all I want for my quarterback. I don't want him to put on 35 pounds of muscle. I want him to be about 10 pounds heavier, but change the makeup of his body. And it sounds like that is what has happened. And because with that comes confidence. And with confidence comes the leadership. And so, hey, if I played last year at 208, and now I'm 220, but I'm a much stronger 220, taking off on 3rd and 5 ain't such a big deal to me anymore. When you're 208 and you're a redshirt freshman and you bench press 275 pounds, getting hit by a Big Ten linebacker is not fun.
No.
But if you're 220 pounds, you're a step faster than you used to be, and you can bench press 315 pounds now. Now it's not such a big deal to take that hit. So
you think Julian Saint can bench press 315 pounds right now?
I don't know if he can or not. That would be where I would be happy if he could. I don't think he can.
Hell yeah, if he can bench 315, yeah, that'd be great. I would like that. Yeah.
But that's what you're aiming for. And we all talked about the quarterback at IU. The guy won the Heisman and everything, and they're like, "Oh man, he took off at a great time." I'm like, yeah. He's a 4th year, player who's been in the weight room for 4 years. He weighs like 238 pounds. Like that's
who played at what? Who played at what? Cal? I think he had to take off a bunch, bro. Yes. Like, did you see their offensive line? He's used to running. I promise.
Yes. So it was like the year before when our quarterback took off. I'm like, well, hell, he's 245. Like, he's as big as a tight end. Whereas Julian Saint was like probably 205, 210 this past year. It's not the same world. It just isn't.
Yeah. So, no, it's not at all, man. Hey, don't forget, I've got these last couple updates. Then we're going to do these questions. So if you've left the stream early, you're not going to get an opportunity to win 2 free tickets to an away game. But anyway, just quick update, man. Obviously, we got some the Iron Buckeye Awards from the winter workouts. You're never going to guess. J.J. Smith, his 4th consecutive Iron Buckeye. I mean, that's just insanity. Also in that, Jalen McClain with Caleb Downs leaving. I love hearing that. Jalen McClain's always been a dog, but we love hearing that. Brandon Ennis, excited to hear that as well. He needs a big-time year. And then Garrett Stover, man. Garrett Stover got Iron Buckeye as well. So
that was a neat one to see.
In that linebacker room, we'll see linebacker, right? The safety, he's not a safety, he's a linebacker, right?
I hope they turn that kid into a fullback is what I hope, but
yeah, I heard he's fast, bro. I heard he's
he is. He is. He can play.
Yeah.
He just is about 6 foot tall.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, so got our Iron Buckeyes there. That'll be exciting. But here we go, man. VB coach, you're not allowed to answer this question. I will tell you that you guys are going to know the answer to this first question. You have 1 minute. Is it 1 minute, Steely? Do I give you 1 minute or 30 seconds to answer the question? What is it? I think it's 30 seconds, right? 30 seconds. Each question's 1 point. Some point in time, I'll give you guys, once I pick the game, I'll pick the date that we're going to shut off the trivia questions. It'll probably be about, I'll try to shut it down like either 2 or 3 weeks early so you guys have time to plan if you get it. 30 seconds. Okay, 30 seconds. Here we go. It's the first name that pops up in my chat. On your end, you're probably going to see a different order, but this is what I have to do. So are you guys ready for the trivia question? Doesn't matter. You got to be. Here we go. In what year did Ohio State win its first national title in football? What year? What year was Ohio State's first national title in football? And you're never going to guess it. Steely got it right. Steely got it right. And Steely gets the point. It is over. I think everybody else left because it's too late. Oh, Shane guessed as well. The answer is 1942. Steely is on the board. I think last year, Steely had like a very big lead, and then he didn't show up for quite some time. There it is. Steely got it right. Tyler, you were correct as well. Just a little late. Captain, you were correct as well. Just a little late. I will save Dennis coming in late too. Yeah, you guys got to watch the show as far up as the dial will let you bring it, or you'll be behind, and I'll ask the question, and really it was asked 30 seconds ago. But congrats, Steely. You got a point towards the free tickets, man. I got the next question lined up for tomorrow, but I think that will do it. We got any super chats here? Steely, man, thanks for being a member for 2 months. He said, been a year since we lost ZZM. Miss you. I miss ZZM a lot. I loved it. Dude, he was always very smart. He would always like, if I would say something on the show, he would challenge me. He'd be like, or he would correct me sometimes. And he's always right, man. He was always right. So I miss ZZM for sure. Steely, thanks for the $1.99, brother. Congratulations, Kelly, on your new job and move. VB coach, what you got on that, bro?
Kelly's my sister.
I know. That's why I asked you.
So, yeah, while we were sitting here, I got a text. She got the job in Texas, so they're going to be moving to Dallas. So
nice. Congrats, Kelly.
Yeah.
Congrats. Well, on that note, y'all, we appreciate you. VB coach, any final words?
No, just, pray for everybody staying healthy through spring ball. It sounds like they're definitely stirring things up, creating competition. And I posted on the chat a lot, hey, Cream's going to rise to the top. We got a bunch of good corners. We got a bunch of good safeties. We got a bunch of good receivers. It's going to take care of itself. So,
yeah, absolutely. Real fast, Dennis. Tinker is currently chewing your toy that you bought her. Thanks. Dennis sent Tinker a toy a while ago, and she's down on the floor playing with it right now. Just wanted to point that out. But, guys, appreciate you for watching. Appreciate the super chats. Appreciate the support. Hit that like button on your way out on both channels. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And please don't forget, once the channel's over, the show's over, not live anymore, commenting down below is a big help as well. If you're listening on Spreaker or Apple Podcasts, give us a like and head on over to the Scoot message board. On that note, we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Go Buckeyes. OH.
IO.